you're a Steve Jobs fan to the point where you copy his clothes and you put on maybe a fake voice. It's like, should you be leading a $9 billion company?
Oh, yeah. Well, obviously, she's wearing a turtleneck.
She's wearing a turtleneck. Listen to what the woman has to say. Hello and welcome to History's Greatest Idiots, the podcast in which we relive the biggest mistakes in human history and give you lessons that you can learn from so you never ever repeat those mistakes again. However, we're human. Who are we kidding? We make mistakes all the time. Joining me as ever is the truly amazing and incredibly supportive, given the conversation we've just had off air, Derek. Hello, Derek. How are you doing?
Hey, Lev. What's up? Hey, everybody that's listening. I'm doing great, man.
Excellent
good week
stuff. Excellent.
In the books.
Yeah. You've hit summer. Is that right down there?
Yes. It's been mild, too, because I live in basically hell. It's now into the hundreds, so my afternoon walks are at 6 a.m.
Oh, good.
When it's only 90.
You're like the coyotes, like, what the fuck is he doing here at this time?
Yeah, you should see the things the Roadrunner says.
Oh my God! Yeah,
going to the cartoons.
I remember.
I'm so immature.
I remember. You'll probably be able to connect with some of this. When I used to do radio shows many years ago now, I'd do the morning ones, and some of the morning shows would be starting ridiculously early, and you'd have to be getting up at ungodly hours, like before people in nightclubs had finished clubbing. You'd be up and going to work. And I'd be driving to work on these like desolate motorways, and they turn into zoos. Like at that time in the morning, at that time of night, it is ridiculous the amount of wildlife you see on roads at that speed. And then you've got like rabbits that will not get out of the way, and they're kind of staring at you. And you get the Art Garfunkel, "How can the light that burns so brightly burn for half as bright eyes?" I'm like, oh God, I don't want to kill Watership Down, so I'm just like swerving around all this wildlife. It's fucking crazy.
I have been there. Yes,
yeah.
Yes, sir. I tell you what, so I think they do the morning shows that early just because most of the people hosting are coming in drunk from the bars.
That's it. I had this method. So I would try and go to sleep at like 7, 8 o'clock, something like that, and I'd be up at about 2:33.
Okay.
I wouldn't get to sleep because I just couldn't adjust, so I wouldn't fall asleep until 10:30. So you're only working on a few hours sleep, and I'd bring so much food in with me that I literally overshopped so that I could feed the station, so that I had like all sorts of sugary, caffeinated, ridiculous things at hand to keep me going. Then I'd finish my show and I'd drive all the way back home, and I'd be like on the motorway, like Ludovico technique, pinning my eyes open, just trying to get home. So that I didn't crash and not only wipe out wildlife but also humans with me as well. So yeah,
that'd be bad.
That would have been bad, and I must have shortened my life by years with the amount of sugar I took in those days. But
yeah, but they're the years at the end where you're wearing diapers and all that.
Yeah, who wants to live at that age anyway? You know,
not me.
No. So, so we've both had we've had a week's. You've heard about mine. It's complicated. So I would like to know, and you gave me a little bit of a taster, a soupçon, if you will, just before we came on air of who this person is. Please tell me, who is your idiot this week?
All right. I want to preface this here before I get into it with a warning that some of this can be disturbing.
Okay.
There's some sexual deviancy involved in this guy's manipulation that I just want people to be aware, if you're sensitive to that sort of thing, too.
Okay.
Maybe bear with me, and I'll try to dumb it down as much as I can. Not dumb it down, but just take the edges off as much as I can.
Okay, cool.
So everybody, to some degree, has the desire to be successful and rich and powerful. And loved.
Yeah, absolutely.
That last one there, the loved, that can be a real point of manipulation for some people, even people that have already obtained success and wealth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The dude I'm talking about today knew that, and he targeted some rich, successful, and beautiful people, and shit got weird. Like, weird.
I'm fascinated now.
Today I submit to you a man that most folks consider a monster, and he has some felony convictions, including racketeering, forced labor, wire fraud, and sex trafficking.
Holy shit.
Perhaps you might be thinking that might meet the standard for a monster and not an idiot, because he's really done some unspeakable things, but...
Sure.
I got to go with the broad term of idiot here, because
of course.
I feel like there's a lesson in this for...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Don't be a manipulative jerk type of thing.
Yeah, of course.
In 2020, this gentleman was sentenced to 120 years in prison,
Ooh.
and so we got that going for us.
Jesus.
But we'll start at the beginning. He was born in August of 1960 in Brooklyn, New York. His father was an advertising executive. That might have led to some traits that he had. His mom was a ballroom dancing instructor, which I didn't know was even an actual full-time career, but apparently it is.
If over here, a big part of our popular culture scene at the moment is a thing called Strictly Come Dancing, and it's kind of opened a lot of people's eyes. I think you've got like the American version of it over there, called Strictly.
Fred Astaire?
There's sort of there's like celebrities dancing with actual dancers, and
I
think Floyd Mayweather may have done it over there for you guys, maybe.
He did, and Emmett Smith, Dances with the Stars. That's what we call
it. That's it. Yeah, over here it's called Strictly Come Dancing, and before that it was called Strictly Dancing, and Strictly Dancing, or was it just called Come Dancing? I think it was called Come Dancing. That goes back to the 1950s. That's one of the longest-running TV things in history. And no one was really aware that there is a professional ballroom scene in this country until that show came on, and now like everyone's aware of it. But like, why would you be, really? Who gets paid to do that, you know?
It's amazing that somebody that
it's
be able
great.
to get paid. I bet you they love it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like...
And it's a real passion, and they're so athletic and talented. But like, I would never have thought in this country that there is like a thriving ballroom professional scene and stuff. But anyway, she was a professional ballroom person back in the 60s. That actually makes sense to me for that era.
And she had a bit of a drinking problem.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if that had anything to do with dancing, but I know. Anyway, that led to his parents separating when he was around 8 years old, which could have been another factor that drove him later in life.
Yeah, you'd say so.
As his parents were raising him and trying to bring him up, they showered him with love and told him things like most parents do, that he was gifted and intelligent. And he kind of had a slightly different, grandiose reaction to it. His father said, to quote, "It was almost like a switch went off. Suddenly, overnight, he turned into like Jesus Christ and behaved as though he were superior and better than everybody."
Oh, that's not good.
He behaved like a deity and was dramatic and profound and went straight to his head. That's all one quote.
And that's his dad. Holy shit.
By age 12... he became interested in things like neuro-linguistic programming. And
I've done this.
Reading...
I've done neuro-linguistic programming. It's partially bullshit, but yeah, it does sort of work. And the fact that he took an interest in it, that's worrying.
Well, in addition to that, he took an interest in other mind control themed works, like stuff from Isaac Asimov.
Wow.
And a work like The Second Foundation, which is what he credited with inspiring later on the thing that he's most famous for.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
By age 13, he began numerous relationships with dozens of girls, and they would call the house daily. His parents would overhear it, or his father, and he said he could hear him saying, "I love you. You're the special one. You're important. You're the only one in my life." 13.
13?
Get an early jump on it.
Wow.
I honestly think the point in his life where he's 13 and he's doing these sort of things may have kind of honed his appetite and understanding of how manipulative or how formative those years are as the early 13, 14, 15. Throughout the 80s, I'm jumping ahead.
That's okay.
He was involved in a lot of multi-level marketing companies like Amway. And he became even more fascinated in other multi-level marketing, things like Scientology. And he dived further into neuro-linguistic programming.
Okay.
Because
don't look into this dude's eyes, basically.
the studies and methods that he used to kind of create his own cult in the near future here. By 1984, the creepy really started to ooze out of him a bit, though, because he started up a sexual relationship with a 15-year-old girl that he had met at his theater group.
All right.
He began to apply some of the neurolinguistic programming, mind control techniques, and even dabbling with hypnotism a little bit.
Wow.
And had her introduce him to some friends.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I think I might know who this is. But carry on. Please carry on.
You probably do. This was quite recent and super horrible. There's been a lot of stuff done on this guy in documentary form here recently, which I'll talk about as well.
Of course.
Anyway, she introduced him to her other 15-year-old friend, Gina, and they began to have a sexual relationship.
Okay.
Until the older sister of Gina, Heidi, caught him climbing in the window of the young girl's bedroom and confronted him. When she did this, he explained that her little sister was, quote, a Buddhist goddess and was meant to be with him.
Right. Big
I don't
red
think he
flags.
understands that sort of. It makes me mad
Does he
that
understand
he involved
Buddhism?
in it. Yeah, it kind of bugs me that he did that. But his involvement with the girl led her to drop out of school and continue her relationship with him, and even work with him on his new venture, which he started in 1990. Was his very own multi-level marketing company called Consumers Byline Inc., or CBI.
Okay. That's a reasonably... That's kind of a... As far as company names go, and obviously this guy starting a cult, that's nothing that's going to raise red flags straight away, a name like that. But,
he's kind of just an annoying friend that, outside of the sexual relationships, that's trying to get you to buy into their Amway program, but his own version. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, towards the middle of the 90s, Gina fell out of favor with him, and there wasn't a lot that was heard about her until she popped back up in 2002 when she was found dead of a gunshot wound to her head at a Buddhist temple in Woodstock, New York.
Oh, my God.
It was ruled a suicide, but it's disturbing that somebody like this guy and his situation would be tied in with Buddhism, because that's not even anywhere near
No.
It's
not even
just
slightly.
the same as saying it's not even a religion. It's a theory of goodness. But
yeah, it's just a gateway for him, isn't it? Basically, it's another way into acceptance with different people. It's he's a Buddhist, he must be harmless. But actually,
right, it could have been a disarming technique like that for sure. Well, in 1993, CBI was shut down, and they were investigating him for pyramid schemes and other financial crimes. They didn't take it all the way to trial, but he did sign an agreement not to be involved in multi-level distribution systems, and he had to pay a $40,000 fine.
That's a real slap on the wrist, that.
Yeah, it didn't even deter him, because in 1998, he started getting involved with a woman named Nancy, who was a nurse and trained practitioner of hypnotism and, you guessed it, neurolinguistic programming.
There we go.
His girlfriend at the time introduced him to Nancy to try to get him some help, because she was kind of fearful of him almost a little bit, but still infatuated, maybe a Stockholm Syndrome situation.
Sure.
Either way, she described him to Nancy. Nancy said, I can help him. He's a sociopath. I know just what to do.
I can help associate. Are we getting massive Joker Harley Quinn vibes from this?
A little bit, because after 4 sessions with him, she came out with a glazed over look in her eyes, telling his then girlfriend Tony that you don't know who he is. He's special.
Okay, definitely Joker Harley Quinn.
Under his spell, totally.
Jesus.
She'd go on to be the co-founder of the multi-level marketing venture that would be the center of the unspeakable horrors that bring him to the forefront of recent history. Okay. Around the same time, he became involved with a recently divorced mother who had won the title of Miss Michigan in 1995. Her name was Christine. He explained to her that a very profound event would often happen when women became intimate with him. Sometimes they would even see a blue light.
So his dick is magic, is what he's
Apparently.
saying, basically.
Or it's Kmart, and he's throwing out the blue light special. Either way, she actually got talked into it, and she was intimate with him, and later recalled saying she saw a blue light afterwards. And remembering
he suddenly
back now,
had a trapdoor in the ceiling, and a blue beach ball comes bouncing out. It worked.
See, that would make it a lot more cartoon-like, and I would feel more comfortable about this guy. But it wasn't like that. But she was aware later on, when she was talking about it, that she was totally unaware of how susceptible her brain was to suggestion, which is the moral of the story behind this guy, is just be careful with people.
Yeah, and actually I think he will have, because of the kind of stuff he's studied, he will have known if certain people are more suggestible than others. Like, he'll have picked people out that are like, oh yeah, I can absolutely manipulate this person. He may not have even realized it himself, but that's absolutely what he'll have been thinking.
He's gotten so good at it, he doesn't even know that he's manipulating people.
Basically, yes.
Gross. That's gross.
It is.
Well, he thought that he could use some of these techniques, though, and make some people his slaves for his personal use.
Oh, God.
And they were happy for the privilege because of his skill with those techniques in manipulating them. The latest multi-level marketing venture that he started with Nancy was initially called an executive success program.
Okay.
It focused on personal development, offered a wide range of techniques aimed at self-improvement. This is scary to me because this is some of the stuff that I'm into.
Right, okay. So it's like, is it a kind of a form of self-help or something like that? Or
a little bit, but he twists it because he kind of breaks them down.
Right.
Makes them feel bad about themselves, points out and makes it glaring on their insecurities.
It's
but
Scientology.
He can show them how to fix it. A little bit, but like, it's. I feel like it might be worse, but I haven't looked into Scientology as much as this group.
Maybe we won't, because we don't need that kind of heat, to be honest. We don't need them knocking on our doors.
Facts. Scientology's great. I don't know anything about it.
Scientology is amazing. Nice, buy into it, folks. Just throw your money down the drain. Sorry, carry on.
He actually was so good at it that he managed to get some already rich and successful people doubting themselves and coming to him for help. Mm-hmm. And they just had to trust him. There was signs, though, that if you look back on it and you think about it, you're like, damn, how did we not see that? For instance, when he created the company, he assumed the title of Vanguard in the program. And he assumed that because his favorite game, that was one of the titles, and the whole point of the game was to destroy one enemy's power in order to increase your own power and stature in the game.
He sounds like a fucking Bond creepy villain.
Yeah. Well,
pretty much.
Is, basically. So in 2002, the program gained some more traction and credibility when it successfully recruited members from the influential Bronfman family.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but they're the heirs to the multi-billion-dollar Seagram's fortune, the Seagram 7, the whiskey, the drinks and whatnot.
Okay. From
there, the number of famous and successful people became part of the program. It was kind of staggering. He brought in, just a list, which now I'm out of order, but... there we go.
Okay.
Oh, no.
That's okay. Take your time.
Oh, there we go.
You got it.
He brought in people such as successful American businessman and reporter Sheila Johnson.
Okay.
American actress Allison Mack.
Oh, no.
Smallville.
I know who he is. I know who he is. Oh, no, that's giving it away. I had a massive crush on her.
Even the Surgeon Generals and Enron executives, Stephen Cooper. So
did you just say Enron?
Yep. I bet you he taught him a few things, huh?
Spoiler alert for mine. There's an ad. I mean, there's going to be a few noticeable behavioral links between the person I'm talking about and the person you are. But The Enron link is interesting, and I'll tell you about that when I get to mine. But carry on, please. I know who this is now, and you said Alison Macken, and I thought she was so talented, and she was gorgeous, and then this happens, and I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Jesus.
Exactly. That's the exact reaction I have.
Yeah.
I'm like, her too?
Yeah, it's really sad.
Well, it gets worse, though, because time and time again, he used sexual manipulation to recruit and control. He even managed to have a sexual relationship with the gatekeeper to the Dalai Lama himself.
What?
Yep. In 2009, despite having taken a vow of celibacy, the monk in charge with being the gatekeeper for the Dalai Lama got down and dirty with this gentleman and gained him access to the Dalai Lama, who almost kind of endorsed him a little bit.
Well, I mean,
without knowing any better.
Well, I mean, it's not. I mean, the guy is good at literally winning people over. I mean, you can talk about charming people, but this guy has spent a lifetime perfecting the art of manipulating and charming people into vulnerable positions. So it wouldn't have been a stretch for him to get a powerful world figure to say, this guy's all right. You know, that's not that difficult.
He even went so far as getting the Dalai Lama to write the foreword for one of the books that he co-wrote later on, which it's a super duper bummer for me. But he didn't only use the sex and those sort of methods for manipulation, but he also tried to coerce powerful allies with blackmail. In 2015, he hired a Canadian investigative firm to get some dirt on federal judges, U.S. senators, reporters, editors, and publisher for the Times-Union who had done a story on him that wasn't so super flattering.
He absolutely has become a Bond villain at this point. That's... Jesus.
Yep, and by 2017, enough was enough. The New York Times published a story on the organization and called it what it was, which was a cult. It came out that there was a secret group within the group, a secret sorority called DOS, of women that were part of a special group. They were literally known as slaves.
Oh, my God.
They called themselves that, like, willingly because of the manipulation from this guy.
Yeah.
And he had them branded with his initials as some sort of symbol.
I remember hearing about this. That for me was the point at, like, wow, he has gone so far that he's literally branding humans.
Yeah, it's really disgusting to me. But he got them to do all of this and go so far and provide him with nude photos as well as damaging information that he could use against him to show, how committed and trusting they were of him. Yeah. But basically, he's like, here, give me everything I can use to take you down later on and hold against you so that I can maintain power forever. But when the article came out in the New York Times, he took off to Mexico and was accompanied by a few members from his inner circle. Wow. On March 18th, he was arrested by the Mexican Federal Police, and it later came to light that they were getting ready to get down in a group sex sort of situation, even while he's on the run.
Well,
the turd.
Yeah, I mean, you're in Catalina, the booze is flowing.
You're running from the cops.
You're running from the federales, why not? Jesus, this guy. Wow.
After they picked him up, and during the trial, a lot more bad things came out, too. Including, perhaps, a suspected rape of another 15-year-old girl named Camilla that happened in 2005. Wow. There was speculation that he may have had connection to a string of homicides as well.
Jesus.
Like I mentioned Gina, the 15-year-old girl he had a thing with back when he was 24.
Yeah.
Well, she was found dead. We talked about that. It was an apparent suicide, but she wasn't the only of his lovers that had committed suicide or randomly gotten cancer.
That's
apparently
weird.
He was feeding them large amounts of bismuth and other compounds that led to cervical cancer. I mean, that's
why was he doing that?
Thing. They were leaving him. They were running away. When he got tired of him and he didn't want anybody else to have him, or they were wandering off, he offed him. That's the suspicion.
Wow.
But there was 5 or 7 different women that were with him that later died of cancer or other suicide mysterious circumstances.
That's high. That's a very, very high percentage.
And then in 2009, I don't know why they haven't convicted him on this, but in 2009, he was filmed claiming that I have killed people because of my beliefs.
Did he ever outline what his beliefs were, or is it basically, I want to have sex with everyone?
He broke it down in the tenets, I believe, of the group that he formed.
Okay.
The cult he started was called NXIVM. It's spelt all ridiculous. It was billed as the Executive Success Program, and it offered professional development seminars and group awareness training. And as of September 20th, it is estimated... September 20th, 2020, it is estimated that roughly 50 to 60 people remain very loyal, which just blows my damn mind.
Hadn't he been convicted at that point, I think?
He had not been convicted, and he even talked those 50 or 60 people into dancing and celebrating and protesting outside of his jail and the prosecutors' homes.
The prosecutors? He is out of his fucking mind. Oh my God.
But on October 27th, 2020, he was finally sentenced to 120 years in prison, and he'll remain there until he's 160 years old or is shivved by people that hate child molesting sexual deviants.
But I'd imagine at 120 years he'll probably go to some sort of supermax, and
he's actually in my state, down in Tucson.
He's in Tucson, right. I'd have thought he would have gone to Colorado because they've got a really big supermax there, haven't they? Which is where they keep, like, really dangerous people. Wow. Yeah. Right. Go on, sorry.
I toyed with the idea on whether or not I was even going to say his name because I don't know if I feel like he deserves to be remembered, but I'll go with it that not so much an idiot, more of a monster. His name was Keith Raniere. Yeah. He was the manipulative cult leader of NXIVM and serial sexual deviant, and that's who I submit as my idiot this episode.
That's an intense one for a whole bunch of reasons. Do we know what happened to Alison Mack? Because I know she was part of his inner sanctum. I remember reading about that, and I think she was going to be put on trial as well, and I really hope... Because I'd imagine that she was manipulated into it at certain points. And yes, that doesn't kind of get rid of any guilt she might have. But I really hope she doesn't end up getting 120 years, because that's just sad.
I know that, I believe his inner circle and upper members were also being tried. And I know that she was an important part in that secret sorority. And the initials that were branded could also look to be an AM.
Oh, no.
Within the KR.
Oh, shit. Well, that's not good. It's really difficult with this guy because we are talking about... And the thing is, when you look at people, and, for all we know, he might have killed people, as in he might be a serial killer, as well as all this terrible behavior. Usually you look for inciting incidents in their youth, or, like, neglect or whatever, but... other than, like, maybe getting a god complex from a very young age, which wasn't brought about through trauma, he seems to have had an okay childhood. So...
For the most part. His mom died in 1978, which is right after he graduated high school, and they separated.
But he was already a bit twisted at that point.
I haven't...
Yeah, and mine too, as well. It's weird, because clearly... something has messed him up. I don't know what it is, but for him to have gone on to act the way he did is really disturbing. As far as idiot score, this is a really difficult one, because what we're talking about here is someone who has committed heinous crimes and has shown literally no remorse for them, and they seem to get progressively worse with time. If he'd had an intervention when he was younger and they'd maybe stopped him when some of this behavior was starting to show its head, who knows where we would be now, and I have sympathy. I have sympathy for people who have a problem and they get help. They realize there's a problem. They don't want to do the things they do, and they seek help and they try and walk a path. He seems to have no insight into that at all. So it's very difficult.
He enjoys how bad he is, I think.
Yeah, he revels in his mastery and control over other humans. I think I'm going to have to score him quite high. I think he's going to have to be like an 88. Actually, I might push that to a 90. I think we'll go 90 with that one. He was always going to be caught. It's very difficult to score him because, it's more monstrous behavior than idiocy. But just truly, truly horrible. And it's interesting because I was watching a program the other day about serial killers, and specifically about Harold Shipman, who is the most prolific serial killer the UK has ever had. He may have killed something upwards of 300 people in his time as a doctor.
Lord.
Yeah, if you ever look into Harold Shipman, he was only ever convicted, I think, of about 6. But when they look back through his caseload as a doctor, they're like, he's killed hundreds of women and old men. They were saying that his last one, where he killed a woman who was in reasonable health and then tried to steal her money, all of it, by changing the will, which was the first and only time he ever did that. And people have speculated maybe he wanted to get caught. Maybe at that point, the weight of his crimes and his behavior, even though he showed no remorse, was such that he just had to give up. And he wanted to do it in a way where he would be caught, and I don't know. That's the argument that some people have with serial killers, that eventually the ones that get caught sometimes do it because they want to be caught, because they just can't take it anymore, what they're doing.
That makes sense. Yeah.
To a certain extent. And that feels slightly redemptive, ever so slightly. I mean, it's not forgiving what they've done, but at least a part of their humanity is there deliberately sabotaging their acts, potentially. That's the theory. With this guy, obviously he'd done so many terrible things. I wonder if he was pushing it so far that eventually he was bound to be caught, because he just kept on ramping it up and getting worse and worse with time. I think 90 is a fair score.
I think so.
Yeah, he is.
So. And I think that he, honest to God, believed that he was above getting caught.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there is, honest to goodness, psychopathic tendencies in this guy. And, I have absolutely no... I don't think anyone's going to disagree with me on that. My person, now, whether this person is a psychopath or a sociopath or a narcissist, is really down to how you interpret those things and what you think of their actions. You've given me quite a high bar this week in terms of quite intense, terrible behavior.
See, and I wrestled because I know we're, comedy history sort of stuff, and I tried to figure out how to make this horrible bastard funny, but
it's really difficult.
There's a lesson there, though.
There is. There are absolutely lessons there, and I think a part of it is, his dad said when I gave him praise, he suddenly became this egotist. I kind of wonder if his dad had maybe taken him to a child psychologist at that age. Maybe if a good child psychologist, maybe if someone could have broken that pattern of behavior, maybe, and we might be in a better position. So
maybe, but it was the '60s in America.
Yeah.
You'd just been put in an insane asylum.
Exactly.
Well, that would have worked too.
That would have worked. Yeah, that might have actually been for the best. Anyway, my person this week, and it's kind of a bit of a moment for us. Our 9th episode in, we've now had, what are we talking, 17 idiots, including the one you just mentioned. This is our first female idiot. Number 18 on History's Greatest Idiots. Our entry is Elizabeth Ann Holmes. Elizabeth Holmes, let me give you an intro, is an American...
No relation to Sherlock, right?
No fucking way this woman is related to that dude. Is an American former businesswoman who was the founder and chief executive of Theranos, a now defunct health technology company. Theranos soared in valuation after the company claimed to have revolutionized blood testing by developing testing methods that could use surprisingly small volumes of blood, such as from a finger prick. By 2015, Forbes had named Holmes the youngest and wealthiest self-made female billionaire in America on the basis of a $9 billion valuation of her company. The next year, following revelations and potential fraud about Theranos' claims, Forbes had revised its publication estimate of Holmes' net worth to 0, and Fortune had named her... yeah. Fortune had named her one of the world's most disappointing leaders, which is like, who gives a shit? Fortune.
Well,
Jeez.
I mean, that's a long list.
You're disappointing, but you're still saying I'm a leader? Like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think they were just bitter because they've been conned by her and they didn't see it earlier. Like
Yeah.
The warning signs are there with this woman, and I'm surprised that so many people bought into it, especially because before this podcast, I showed you video footage of her speech patterns, and she affects a baritone voice that doesn't feel genuine to me at all. I mean, everybody's voice, you can put a little bit of extra bass in your voice whenever you want to, right? But the way she talked, it's suspiciously affected, I think.
Yeah.
So the fact that nobody saw that and they're like, this is a bit of a red flag, why don't we look closer into this? Anyway, so the next year, following revelations that, I'm already there. Elizabeth Ann Holmes was born February the 3rd, 1984 in Washington, D.C. Her father, Christian Rasmus Holmes IV, fuck me, was a vice president at Enron. Alarm.
So she's hanging out with bad people.
She's hanging out to... Bring your daughter to paper shredding work day. Yeah. An energy company that later went bankrupt after an accounting fraud scandal. That's putting it mildly. It was one of the biggest corporate fraud scandals in human history. That's a subject for another episode, Enron. They were lying through their teeth constantly, up until the day it happened. It was unbelievable. Later, this guy, Christian Rasmus Holmes fourth, there was another one in there, later held executive positions in government agencies such as USAID, the EPA, and the USTDA, which, given that he worked at Enron, is really disturbing. Her mother, Noelle Ann, worked as a congressional committee staffer. I don't know what that is. Do they get coffee? What is that?
Yeah, coffee. I think they help the speechwriter with providing with paper, and I don't know.
Okay, it sounds like a bit of a busy job. You're in the congressional sphere, but committee staffer, what the hell do they do?
It's disappointing as hell to know that they're involved in government afterwards, you're saying.
Of course, yeah. After Enron, it's we'll hire this dude. No black marks on his name. Holmes...
I wonder we're a shit show over here.
Trump will be working for USAID next. Holmes attended St. John's School in Houston. During high school, she was interested in computer programming and claims she started her first business selling C++ compilers to Chinese universities. I call bullshit. There's no way any high school kid is doing that. Her parents had arranged Mandarin Chinese home tutoring, and partway through high school, Holmes began attending Stanford University's Summer Mandarin program. If only they'd known, they would have barred her at the gates. In 2002, Holmes attended Stanford, where she studied chemical engineering and worked as a student researcher and laboratory assistant in the School of Engineering. So, initial thoughts. What are you making of Elizabeth Holmes at this point?
She's building credibility at an early age that she's a genius and in the field.
Exactly.
So this is a hell of a long con.
It is to be making these sorts of moves at her age. I don't know what somebody must have instilled in her at a young age. If to get ahead in business, you've got to connect. You've got to have a network. You've got to schmooze. She's doing that early, so it kind of molds a little bit now that she's in university. After the end of her freshman year, Holmes worked in a laboratory at the Genome Institute of Singapore and tested for severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus. SARS-CoV-1.
SARS stuff.
Yes, it was her fault. Through the collection of blood samples with syringes. She filled her first patent application on a wearable drug delivery patch in 2003. In 2004, she dropped out of Stanford School of Engineering and used her tuition money as seed funding for a consumer health technology company. So she's like, I don't need you. I'm getting out of Stanford. I'm going to start my own company. That's an accurate impression, in case anyone's wondering. Entirely
Too smart
accurate.
for Stanford.
Yes. Holmes founded the company Real Time Cures in Palo Alto, California, because of course she went to Palo Alto to find a company like that. And this is, I fucking hate this, to democratize healthcare. Just fuck off with that sort of like jingo. It's just,
I don't even know what that means.
What does it mean? It's healthcare, right? It's already fucking democratized.
They're going to get together and vote on whether I get health care?
Yeah, you can get folks.
Yeah, you can see the doctor today. Hold on, we got to get 10 people together.
Yeah,
and
we're
we'll all
just gonna
vote
get a
on whether or not
consensus.
you're getting in.
If there's we'll do a first past the post system, so I'm sure you'll be fine. Holmes
Sounds
described...
time-consuming.
Oh, it's just democratized healthcare. What does that even fucking mean? Holmes described her fear of needles as a motivation and sought to perform blood tests using only small amounts of blood. Now, I can kind of... I can connect with that because I've been having blood tests since I was 12 years old. I had a heart condition when I was younger and I've got Crohn's disease now. So I have to have blood tests every 6 months and sometimes more often than that. So I am constantly getting bloods done. And when you've had surgery multiple times and you've had loads of needles in you, you're not the biggest fan. So I get that she was inspired by a fear of needles. But the way I cope with it is I buy numbing cream, I put it on my arm, I wrap my arm in saran wrap, and after about 30 minutes, most of my arm is completely numb. And then I go in, I get my bloods done, I turn away, I try not to faint, and occasionally if they hit a nerve, like happened this time, I'll pass out. It's not enough for me to think I'm going to start a health tech company over, really.
But she's went to school for chemical and biological.
That's true.
Yeah,
Might as well use it.
She created. Did she actually create the technology of like a wearable?
Well, she patented
dispenser?
it. She filed her first patent, so she is the patent holder. Whether that means she may well have done. She may be like a co-developer of that, or she may be the sole developer. But she holds the patent for that. And actually, we'll get to her patents later. She has a lot of patents, so she has done a lot of
that one
work.
I just know is actually real and
decent,
though.
Back in 2003-04, I guess that would have been a massive innovation, really, in the medical field. So yeah, good for her on that front, but fuck her for the rest. When Holmes initially pitched this is where it gets really weird. When Holmes initially pitched the idea to reap vast amounts of data from a few droplets of blood derived from the tip of a finger, her medicine professor, Phyllis Gardner at Stanford, Gardner responded, "I don't think your idea is going to work," explaining it was impossible to do what Holmes was claiming could be done. Several other medical experts, professors, told Holmes exactly the same thing. However, Holmes did not relent, and she succeeded in getting her advisor and the dean of the fucking school, Channing Robertson, to back her idea. Now, I'm sorry, these fucking academics need looking into, because if you've got an annoying student that won't leave you alone, despite the fact that you know they're completely wrong, don't just give in. Fucking TP their dorm or something else. Don't fucking let them do what they want.
Well, yeah, and definitely don't let them bring democracy to the choices of reality. We all voted on it. This shit that's not real, it's real now.
Yeah, it's like, so she's like, no, you're wrong. No, but I tell you it can work, and then weeks and weeks later they're like, fine, it'll work. Leave me alone, Jesus. I just want some coffee. You know, it's just what the hell. In 2003, Holmes renamed the company Theranos, a portmanteau of therapy and diagnosis, because people love to do portmanteaus for company names. I'm not a massive fan. Robertson became the company's first board member and introduced Holmes to venture capitalists. Why did you do that, with hindsight?
I feel like venture capitalists back a lot of crazy-ass people.
Fuck me, yeah.
I mean, maybe it pays off. It's probably an averages thing, but there's some real scumbags.
Yeah.
I say.
I feel like we should
money to.
I think we should approach some of these people. We might be able to get some money out of them. Because they're throwing money at everything. It's crazy.
It's possible. It's possible.
It really is. Holmes was an admirer. This is one that really weirds me out as well. Holmes was an admirer of Apple founder Steve Jobs. Nothing wrong with that. But she deliberately copied his style, frequently dressing in a black turtleneck sweater, just as Jobs did. Now, he didn't do that all the time. I just want to point that he went through a phase of wearing black turtlenecks, and it was usually when he was suffering the side effects of cancer treatment. So I think, I think that was, he may have chosen it. Who knows? Steve Jobs was kind of an odd guy at moments. So, but she was like, I'm going to exclusively dress in turtleneck sweaters. And it's like, well, just he did it once or twice.
Single white female lady.
Yeah. Holmes claims her mother dressed her in black turtlenecks when she was young, but an employee says she suggested copying Jobs' famous Issey Miyake turtleneck look back in 2007. That means that it probably cost a fortune, I'd imagine, if it's got a name like that.
Yeah. Plus, she didn't have a mother and she was raised in a lab.
Yeah. Sounds like it at this point. Also, I don't like black turtlenecks. I associate those with two, apart from Steve Jobs, I associate them with two things. Kind of actors in the 80s who didn't have the budget to do Shakespearean plays, but they all had a turtleneck, so they wore a turtleneck to do Macbeth, and that's what I associate it with. And then, Archer.
Phoenix?
I was going to say the TV show Archer, because he has tactical turtlenecks, which he calls tactile necks. And some are in black, and awesome. Some are in a slightly lighter shade of black, and they all cost $500. And yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
So I associate it with a cartoon idiot and out of work actors. Basically, during most of her public appearances, she spoke in a deep baritone voice, and although a former Theranos colleague later claimed he heard her use the voice of a typical woman in her 20s, I don't really know how you can describe that, but anyway, to welcome him when he was new, so she was very excited to meet him, and the kind of the facade dropped. Sort of thing.
Okay.
But her family maintain that she's always had a baritone voice. Now, and that it's authentic. I don't know if that's just her trying things out on them, potentially, to see if that works, but I don't know. Yeah. I get the sense that maybe she uses a specific voice to be taken more seriously. And when she's not concentrating, she'll, they'll get kind of the voice crack or something. But it's another weird thing. Like, you're a Steve Jobs fan, and to the point where you copy his clothes and you put on maybe a fake voice. It's like, should you be leading a $9 billion company, really?
Oh, yeah. Well, obviously, she's wearing a turtleneck.
She's wearing a turtleneck. Listen to what the woman has to say. By December 2013, Holmes had raised $6 million to fund the firm. By 2010, Theranos had more than $92 million in venture capital.
Good Lord.
I know. They were fleeced, to be honest. In July 2011, Holmes was introduced to the former Secretary of State, George Shultz. After a 2-hour meeting, he joined the Theranos board of directors. After 2 hours, the former Secretary of State was on board. Holmes was recognized for forming the most illustrious board in U.S. corporate history over the next 3 years. It doesn't say who recognized her, but Forbes and Fortune seem to like her. So, yeah, someone crawled up her arsehole with that one. Holmes operated Theranos in stealth mode without press releases or a company website until September 2013, when the company announced a partnership with Walgreens. I guess you can't really hide at that point, can you? Because Walgreens are massive. To launch an in-store blood sample collection center across Walgreens. She was interviewed for Medscape by its editor-in-chief, Eric Topol, who praised her for this phenomenal rebooting of laboratory medicine. Dude, you needed to do your research. Media attention.
All of these people...
They buy it, don't they? So, and again, you remember we were talking about Go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, she's not even showing them anything. She's just saying
talking,
shit. And
exactly.
they're like, yeah.
She's using really, really good, convincing buzzwords. And we talked about Keith Raniere, or whatever the fuck he's called. He was very, very good. And he'd specifically studied neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis and all this stuff so that he could convince people. I feel like people who are narcissistic, possibly psychopathic, they are very, very good at convincing people, and they realize they are. So for Keith Raniere to sleep his way into the Dalai Lama's life, and then for this woman to get a former Secretary of State, one of the most powerful offices in all of American politics, to be on board after 2 hours. And this guy is an experienced statesman. He is no appointee that is just, my daughter's friend. I'm not talking about Trump, I swear. These are experienced, seasoned people, and they are buying it hook, line, and sinker. It's really disturbing. Let's see. Media attention increased in 2014 when Holmes appeared on the covers of Forbes, Fortune, T, the New York Times style magazine. I don't know why they just call it T. And Forbes recognized Holmes, as the world's youngest self-made female billionaire and ranked her number 110 on the Forbes 400 in 2014. That's a thing, I guess. I've never heard of it before. Theranos was valued at $9 billion. $9 billion.
What in the absolute hell?
And had raised more than $400 million in venture capital at this point. By the end of 2014, her name appeared on 18 US patents and 56 foreign patents. During 2015, Holmes established agreements with the Cleveland Clinic, Capital Blue Cross, AmeriHealth, Caritas, I guess those are healthcare providers, I don't know, to use Theranos technology. So at this point, she is on top of the fucking world, right?
Okay, I don't know what's required to get a patent.
Yeah.
But I feel like you can't just write shit down and be like, oh yeah, here you go.
Maybe she walked into the patent office and she's like, I got another patent for you. No, it's definitely mine. Maybe she's that convincing.
Maybe. I guess I'm just confused as to how you could submit something and get a patent and have it not actually exist or be possible to exist.
Exactly. It's kind of like you can submit there's so many patents. The reason why companies like Google and Apple and Microsoft and Sony and they're all buying up all these smaller companies, it's largely because they have patents on touchscreen technology where you swipe your finger from right to left. We patented that. A different patent from the one that goes up to down and stuff. There's all these micro patents that earn them this'll earn us $1 million a year and this'll, so.
I've got an idea.
Yeah.
I've got an idea. I'm going to get a patent for a teleportation machine, right?
Doesn't have to work.
It's just going to look like a wardrobe. Don't worry. It works.
If you patent that,
good Lord.
I'm going to patent the doorknob to the time machine / wardrobe.
There you go.
Yep, and I'm also going to patent the feet of the time machine / wardrobe and the wooden effect of the time machine / wardrobe. That way we can both claim chunks of whenever those are used in future. Because also I'm going to patent flux capacitor. I know it's probably not been patented yet, so there we go. Whenever someone invents a flux capacitor, I want my fucking money. It's,
apparently that's how it works.
4D chess right here in this podcast. It's amazing. So she's on top of the world and, apparently lying through your teeth with a distinctly odd-sounding baritone voice work out fine every time. But the world is about to come crashing down. Now, I'm going to struggle with this guy's name, but I'm going to try. John Carreyrou. And for some reason, whenever I say his name, I think of Carry On Our Wayward Son.
Yep. I was just thinking
exactly. Neurolinguistic programming. Maybe
Dude,
not.
Is there something in her voice? Was I programmed?
Carry on our wayward son. John Carreyrou of the Wall Street Journal initiated a secret, months-long investigation, I already fucking love this guy, of Theranos after he received a tip from a medical expert who thought that the Edison blood testing device seemed suspicious. She called it Edison. So, yeah, she named it after one of history's greatest thieves. So that's probably an immediate red flag.
He had a lot of patents, too. That's how she did it. She just put...
She's copying from the best.
She just put Edison on it. They were like, fuck it.
Yeah, it seems legit. It's fine. Carreyrou spoke to ex-employee whistleblowers and obtained company documents. When Holmes learned of the investigation, she initiated a campaign through her lawyer, David Boies. It sounds like it sounds like something that the Beastie Boys would say, boys, to stop Carreyrou from these fucking names from publishing, which included legal and financial threats against both the journal and the whistleblowers. She's threatening whistleblowers. That's pretty fucking mad. That's out there.
Presidential these days.
Oh, yeah, apparently. In October 2015, despite Boise's legal threats and strong-arm tactics, Carreyrou published a bombshell article detailing how the Edison device gave inaccurate results and revealing that the company had been using commercially available machines made by other manufacturers for most of its testing. So it's just like, look at this fancy machine. Like, why is this cardboard thing covering this machine I've seen dozens of times before?
Damn.
Yeah.
It's like I made some homemade salsa. Don't pay no mind to the fact that it's in a
The jars in the
package.
recycling are there from someone else. Carreyrou continued to expose Holmes in a series of articles and in 2018 published a book titled Bad Blood, Secrets and Lies in Silicon Valley Startup, detailing his investigation of Theranos. I'd fucking love to read that book. Holmes denied all the claims, calling the journal a tabloid, and promising the company would publish data on the accuracy of its tests. It never did. She appeared on... Yeah. You can't say something like that and then just not fucking do it. Like, you're done at that point, really. She appeared on CNBC's Mad Money the same evening the article was published. Kramer said the article was pretty brutal, to which Holmes responded, "This is what happens when you work to change things. First they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden you change the world." We heard that quote, I think, when I played you her voice. What does that... You missed several steps there. First they think you're crazy, then they fight you. Several decades go by, and then all of a sudden you change the world. It's like, no, you've missed a few steps in that process, I think.
Yeah, the part of providing something of substance.
Exactly. First they think you're crazy, then they say that you're a thief, then they say that you're copying everyone else, and then you've changed the world. No, you're in prison. In 2016, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, sent a warning letter to Theranos after an inspection of its Newark, California laboratory uncovered irregularities with staff proficiency, procedures, and equipment. CMS regulators proposed a 2-year ban on Holmes from owning or operating a certified clinical laboratory after the company had not fixed problems in its California lab in March 2016. On the Today Show, Holmes said she was devastated, but we did not catch and fix the issues faster, and said that the lab would be rebuilt with help from a new scientific medical advisory board. That's also never happened. In July 2016, CMS officially banned Holmes from owning, operating, or directing a blood testing service for a period of 2 years. Theranos appealed the decision to a U.S. Department of Health and Human Services appeal board. No. Shortly thereafter, go on, what were you going to say?
2 years?
2 years.
I think you're not allowed to do it anymore.
Yeah, that should be enough, right? Just like, don't let it linger on anymore.
Soon as you provide that stuff you say you were going to give us, then maybe we'll think about it.
Then we'll consider it. Shortly after this happened, Walgreens ended its relationship with Theranos and closed its in-store blood collection centers, which that is a disturbing collection of words, to be honest with you. blood collection centres. Sounds like you're a bunch of fucking vampires behind sheets or something, just draining victims.
It felt a little bit icky when you said it.
Yeah, blood collection. Oh, fuck it. I don't want to go to a centre that collects blood. That just sounds wrong. The FDA also ordered the company to cease use of its capillary tube nanotainer device, one of its core inventions. That sounds like something out of a Doctor Who episode.
It does.
Capillary tube nanotainer device. What the fuck is a nanotainer?
I don't know. It's my new rap name.
Yeah, they can't use it anyway, so it doesn't.
Little nanotainer.
Little nanotainer. Nanotainer X. In 2017, the state of Arizona filed suit against Theranos, alleging the company had sold 1.5 million blood tests to Arizonans while concealing or misrepresenting important facts about those tests, i.e. they couldn't be fucking done. In April 2017, the company settled the lawsuit by agreeing to refund the cost of the tests to consumers and to pay $225,000 in civil fines. That's a drop in the ocean. And attorney fees. Oh, here we go. Attorney fees for a total of $4.65 million. So we're starting the ball rolling with the insane values. It's a start.
Yeah.
I'm sure that went a long way in Arizona. That will have
well, I mean, how many people bought that test?
Probably shit. Well, 1.5 million blood tests to Arizonans. So that's a lot of people. That doesn't sound like enough.
$1 a test.
Yeah, that should have been like 10 million, I'd have said.
Yeah.
Anyway, other reported ongoing actions included unspecified FBI investigations and 2 class action fraud lawsuits. Holmes denied any wrongdoing because she's not going to come out and say, yeah, we did all that shit. On May 16th, 2017, approximately 99% of Theranos' shareholders reached an agreement with the company to dismiss all current and potential litigation in exchange for shares of preferred stock. Holmes released a portion of her equity to offset any dilution of stock values to non-participating shareholders, blah, 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 stock market things. In March 2018, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, charged Holmes and Theranos, former President Ramesh Balwani, with fraud by taking more than $700 million from investors while advertising a false product. That is a big fucking charge. On March 14th, 2018, Holmes settled an SEC lawsuit. The charges of fraud included the company's false claim that its technology was being used by the U.S. Department of Defense in combat situations. They said this shit was on the front lines.
Yeah, okay.
The company, and this is a great quote. The company also lied when it claimed to have. They're not saying like misled. They just saying lied. Also lied when it claimed to have $100 million in revenue stream in 2014. That year, the company only made 100,000. So that's pretty bad.
Good Lord,
you've added a few zeros there. The terms of Holmes' settlement included surrendering voting control of Theranos, a ban on holding an officer position in a public company for 10 years, and a $500,000 fine. Again, drop in the ocean, that.
But how is Theranos still a company? They don't do anything.
This is where it gets really funny for Theranos. Well, sad for other people, but funny for Theranos. At its height in 2015, Theranos had more than 800 employees. It fired 340 staff members in October 2016 and an additional 155 employees in January of 2017. In April 2018, Theranos filed a WARN Act notice with the state of California announcing its plans to permanently lay off 105 employees, leaving it with fewer than 24 employees. Most of the remaining employees were laid off in August 2018. On September the 5th, 2018, the company announced that it had begun the process of formally dissolving, with its remaining cash and assets to be distributed to creditors. What could they possibly have left at this point?
Seems like that went on for a really long time, and I have to not be understanding, but how the hell do they have so many employees when they don't do anything?
They don't make a thing. They're literally the subject of litigation. That's all they're doing at this point. I'd be fucking filling my pockets with all of the stuff in the inventory. Like, I'd be taking pens, loo rolls. I'd be stripping posters off the walls.
Yeah, just clearing out the vending machines.
I'm going to take this chair for a
snacks.
walk.
Okay. I want one of two things here that she has. Okay. Either the fake job that it does nothing and I do nothing and I get paid.
Hell yes.
Or just a taste of the billions of dollars that venture capitalists just give to crazy people.
Just give me 10 million.
I don't. It doesn't even have to be that much. You give him 10, and then you can give me 2, and I'll be good.
Like you clearly throwing bad money after good at this point. So just give us a little bit of money. We just want to enjoy life a little bit. We've earned it. Anyway,
just a taste,
just a smidge. On June 15th, 2018, following an investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of California in San Francisco that lasted more than 2 years, a federal grand jury indicted Holmes and former Theranos chief operating officer and president Ramesh Sonny Balwani on 9 counts. Where did he get that nickname? I don't even want to know.
It's his disposition.
Yeah, it's like, I've got millions of dollars. I'm so happy. On 9 counts of wire fraud and 2 counts of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, both pleaded not guilty because they're fucking deluded. Prosecutors allege that Holmes and Balwani engaged in 2 criminal schemes, one to defraud investors, the other to defraud doctors and patients. That's going to be the big one. After the indictment was issued, Holmes stepped down as CEO of Theranos, but remained as chair of the board. So,
Jeez.
They don't even go broke.
I don't work here, but I still work here.
Yeah.
And we exist.
I'm no CEO, but I'm chair of the board.
This is the kind of the interesting part of this whole thing, and I'm coming to an end now. The case is US v. Holmes 18-CR.00258, United States District Court for the Northern District of California, and it is currently set to begin on, this is coming up, August 31st, 2021, after being pushed back due to COVID-19 pandemic and her pregnancy. So, in that time, she's managed to become pregnant. Yeah. If convicted, Holmes faces a sentence of 20 years in prison and a fine of $250,000. This is the interesting part. Plus restitution for each count of wire fraud and each conspiracy count. So that might just wipe her out. Like, whatever millions she might have, they will be gone because that's Al Capone level, kind of fraud right there.
Yeah, don't get to walk away and still be rich.
No. You shouldn't, really, in this situation. And thus halts the tale for now until August the 31st of this year of Elizabeth Ann Holmes,
the woman with the baritone voice who defrauded $700 million out of idiots who had too much money and then lied to the entire world.
So, yeah.
Sounds a lot like Winston Churchill.
It did a little bit, didn't it? I almost went brave beaches speech stuff. So what do you make of Elizabeth Ann Holmes, our first ever female idiot?
She sucks. She's not a good person.
She's not. And she's... Because we were talking about Keith Raniere and, the debate, I don't like using the word evil because it kind of... It distances humans from the possibility that those actions might happen. They're like, oh, that person's evil, therefore it'll never happen again. It won't happen to this person. I shouldn't be suspicious. It's part of, it does happen, and calling it evil dismisses it. I don't think Elizabeth Holmes is evil. I think she's deluded. And
lies a lot.
Lies a lot.
To not be truthful.
An incredibly good talker as well, because I've seen interviews with her where she's caught on the back foot And she has such a repertoire of bullshit terms that she can just throw at the interviewer, one of whom was Bill Clinton. And he was like, oh, yeah, I like what this girl's saying. Yeah, and it's like, yeah. Bill's anything with long hair and a female voice, and he's like, "Oh yeah, tell me what you got to say." Yeah. So yeah, he's spellbound by her, but she is very, very convincing in interviews. Except when she's doing that whole, "Oh, people dismiss you and then you change the world." That's just like, no one's buying that bullshit. But in one-on-one interviews, when she is pressed for stuff, she's really, really convincing. However, I've seen footage of her with federal prosecutors. And they're just saying, we just want yes or no answers. We don't want long-winded answers. Right? Did you ever have anything on the front line of combat? No.
Well, define front line.
She wasn't. She was just like, no. Did you ever have anything that worked in Walgreens that was original to you? No. Did you ever have? And it's just no. And it's on camera. It's the only time she's ever given a straightforward answer. But she could have been a politician.
It trips me out how often I'm seeing this occur of people just, entrancing people with the use of buzzwords, like just made up nonsense. Like there's no real point to it. They're talking in a circle and they're saying amazing things and they're getting you all hyped up because it's almost like clickbait, but verbal clickbait.
Exactly. And the weird thing is, because we're so used to it from politicians, from, personalities and people, we kind of give people a pass because we're like, oh, they're doing that thing where they don't answer properly. Instead of going, why are you not fucking answering the question? We're like, oh, they're doing the politicians thing. Oh, aren't they clever? No, let them answer the fucking question. We really needed, and this is a thing, I highly recommend you go and check out on YouTube. There was an interviewer in this country, and we have a lot of very stern political interviewers in this country. They are pit bulls when they go after blood. There was a guy called Jeremy Paxman, who is legendary in this country for being the hardest interview in human history. Politicians of immense stature have been caught in his gravitational field and never been seen or heard from again because their careers have been destroyed. And there is an interview where he's talking to a Tory politician, a Conservative politician. I think it was Michael, I can't remember his name now. And there was a scandal in the House of Parliament where he threatened to overrule a member of the Conservative Party. And the guy wasn't answering the question. And it went back to Paxman and he just kept going, did you threaten to overrule him? Did you threaten to overrule him? Yes, but did you threaten to overrule him? Did you threaten to overrule him? Yes, but did you threaten? He does it 19 times until he gets the answer. He does not give up. And also, he was talking to Sting about, isn't it a bit hypocritical of you, Sting, to fly around the world and lecture people on environmental causes when you use a private jet? And he's like, well, you know, I've got to get the word out. And it's always easy for people to point the finger at celebrities and say that they're hypocrites. And he said, nobody's calling celebrities a hypocrite, Sting. I'm calling you a hypocrite. So,
damn.
He is a master of not letting people get away with it. And I feel like we need more of that. We need more people who hold buzzword spouting lunatics to account, to be quite honest.
I agree.
So Elizabeth Holmes, what do you make of her and her idiocy?
Okay, I'm not gonna go super high because it was mostly money. There's not a lot of like real
in terms of damage,
sudden or long-term death.
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of this blame is on the people that bought it. Really, like, how could you be so naive? And so many people were. It's kind of like when we had Malachi Love Robinson. It's like a number of items of blame really fall on the state of Florida with that kid because he was allowed to get away with it for so long. So yeah, what do you think scoring wise with Elizabeth Holmes?
With Elizabeth Holmes, she gets extra bonus points because somehow our stories, though we don't talk to each other, are related. I'll go 85 with her.
I like that.
She's a fair idiot.
She was never going to get away with it again because she didn't make anything. You know, it didn't work. So eventually she was going to get found out. But I feel like she got away with it for like nearly a decade, really. And
way too long.
Yeah.
I can't even get away with hardly working at work for that long before they get
I take half an hour to play Football Manager on my PC, and I've got people pestering me wondering what's going on, you know?
Right?
So...
How does it last so long for?
Yeah.
Just want to taste.
I know. They were hypnotized by that voice. Everything's fine. Don't ask any questions. So, yeah.
That was creepy.
I've turned her
Maybe
into...
it hits a tone.
Yeah.
Maybe it hits like a megahertz range that automatically makes you just buy into her. Maybe she's a super villain.
She might be. Maybe, yeah. And when you said hit a certain tone, my mind immediately went to the brown note in South Park, the one note that makes people shit themselves. Don't know why my mind went there, but there we go. I'm 40 years old and still a child. So Elizabeth Holmes gets an 85, and Keith Reindeer gets a 90 on the idiot scale, although he was like full on like just supervillain levels
bad guy.
Yeah, real bad shit. So that's our show for this week. Really quite fascinating stories. How did you find the process this week, Derek? Because I know it was slightly darker subject matter this time.
I was watching shows that dealt with cults.
Right.
And I was like, there's actually like 4 different ones that are out on cults and different documentaries and whatnot. And I was just cranking through the Netflix Explained series, and cults were one of them, and they touched on this guy, and I'm like, oh, that asshole.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I remember, like, when you started saying cult, you gave me his date of birth and how he ingratiated himself, and I was like, I feel like this is familiar. And I think I may have watched a similar documentary to you, possibly, on this guy, so, yeah.
Yeah, they're all over the place
really are.
right now.
So yeah, that's our show for this week. Thank you so much, Derek. It's been an absolute blast doing it, as always. I'm really enjoying
it. It has been
these.
fun.
Yeah. And we're going to try a slightly different format next time. So if you're listening now, keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. We'll see if it works. It may or may not. But for now, yeah, that's our show.
Well,
Go on. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Speaking of how I got it,
Oh,
if anybody wants to hit us up on the Twitter and give us ideas for idiots that they want to hear about, that's
yes. Twitter and Instagram, you can find us by searching History's Greatest Idiots. I think on Twitter we're just called Greatest Idiots. I don't think I could get the History's part down, but History's Greatest Idiots on Instagram and also Greatest Idiots on Twitter. If you just generally search History's Greatest Idiots, you will find us. There are links out there, and send us your details and information about idiots that we may have missed and we might want to cover. But yes, it's been a great show, and we've talked a lot about really quite horrible situations and truly intense con artists this week. If you do find yourself, or even someone you notice them behaving in a way that you think they might be looking to start some sort of cult, or I wonder if they're stealing money from our friends who have got far too much and no common sense, you can step in and stop them, because these people do need to be stopped. And if you find yourself going down this path, just try and not follow those urges. It's not good.
Yeah.
Because you will get found out, unfortunately. Anyway, until next time, I've been Lev. Derek, would you like to say goodbye?
Goodbye, everybody.
And we will see you again soon. Take care now.